Okay, welcome to today's show. Today we're going to speak with a retired photographer who's been a photographer for 30 years. Lots of information, running a business, what it's been like to work as a professional photographer, and his name's Craig Garrison. Let's bring Craig in.
Hey, Ed.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Now, a little bit about Craig. When I got into photography, he's the one who helped me get into photography. Actually, we went on some shooting trips together, and I was badgering his brain. What is an f-stop? How does this work, and how does that work? And this is the guy that taught me all that.
And he learned it very well.
Okay, first off, how long have you been in business as a photographer?
I was in business for about 30 years. I had 3 different studios at different times. Never had more than one studio open at one time, but about 30 years.
Okay. And during that time, didn't you actually own your own photo lab for a while?
Yeah, I did. I forgot all about that. Had my son running it, and I got up one morning and went to the 1 hour photo lab. I did my own in my studios, but also had a 1 hour photo lab. And got up one morning and found my son wasn't there. And he called me many hours later, said, "Hi, Dad, I'm in Dallas." Learned that one the hard way.
So what? Have you closed the lab down and just stayed with the photography?
I sure did.
So what kind of cameras did you actually start out with back in those days?
Film cameras. It was the click was all in the camera, whereas nowadays the click is all on a mouse. But it was a good way of doing it. In the old days, it was easy because you take your medium format film, you take a roll of film out, you lick the tape that was on it, you put it all in a box, and it went away. And nowadays, what would happen is now you've had to learn how to use the computer to correct virtually everything.
So do you think it's a little bit harder now or easier back then?
Well, certainly getting the film out of the studio was easier because it was film. now, now it's digital files, and of course you got to take a look at them as soon as you can. So I'd say it's probably a little more difficult on the processing for the photographer now. Because
you probably shoot a lot more now with digital too compared to film.
Yes, I've always told all my employees that think of my film as as fast film shooting. I mean, you're shooting thousands and thousands of frames of video.
Now, for many years, Craig used to shoot a lot of high school seniors and had a fantastic high school senior photography business going. And then some strange things happened that changed all that for him. And let's let Craig tell us about that.
Well, most of the time when I first began, I actually did as much or more commercial work, buildings and products and all that. But found I didn't do quite so well dealing with those people. And I've always liked the kids and seeing what was going on. Instead of making me feel old, they really actually made me feel younger. That's come and gone, by the way. But what happened is this one did spread by word of mouth in the very beginning. That's not enough to keep you open, but it's enough to get you started. And once you take a picture or two and have something that you can show and tell, then if you've done any good, you're real. I wasn't some old man who said, "I'll stand here, you stand there, click, next." So I started and found that if I paid attention to the students instead of to the box, meaning the camera in my hands, that things went real well. And one student would lead to another, and then of course you advertise and probably get ambassadors and all that kind of stuff. But
well, what happened with the business that kind of messed up your high school senior business after a while?
Well, after growing it as best I could for a long time,
I mean, how many high school seniors did you average shooting a year?
Oh, I probably did at least 100, and we're a small town and all that kind of stuff. But that would be probably my minimum number per any year in there. And then what happened is the schools started signing contracts with the national vendors and that kind of stuff. And when that happens, they'd no longer accept my pictures. And when they didn't accept my pictures for the yearbook, of course, that put me out of business. There were still a few, especially if I had done the older senior daughter or son. Mom would always bring back in the other one to say, "Okay, it's time for the next one." But no, that just didn't do it. The big studios put me out of business.
And did a lot of the high school senior jobs also lead to future wedding jobs and other portrait jobs?
Surprisingly, yes. Both family portraits and weddings. I've had people who have left, gone clear cross country, gone out to California and all, called me up and said, "Hey, we're going to be back in Destin on whatever the date happened to be, and we're hoping you can do our wedding." So yeah, I did real good referrals off my own shooting. So I was happy with that.
So for studio portraits, Craig ran a studio for many years, had complete, in studio lighting setup. And we're going to ask him a little bit about the studio lights that he's used for years and what he ended up getting right before he retired, actually.
Well, I used Novatron equipment for about 29 years, I guess. I had 12 heads total, not all necessarily working either, but I had 12 heads and 3 different battery setups. But I always thought, I really like the idea of having the battery built into the head. So I traded it all in for 3 ProMaster heads, which were very good pieces of equipment. But sure enough, I probably used that one for maybe 6 or 8 jobs, and then decided, okay, time to retire. I've retired. And that was the end of that.
So what are you doing with that, the ProMaster equipment now? Just
It's sitting under one of my tables back at my house.
And since you're retired now, what was your last set of cameras that you've used before you retired?
I think I knew I was going to retire, obviously, before I retired. And it's not for the fact that I didn't like what I was doing. I've got my health problems like everybody seems to. If I could get a camera and get out on the beach and do a wedding today, I'd have brought it with me. But I used Canon all the way through my entire career. Now, Ed has used Nikons, and I always wondered which one of these things focuses faster. And undoubtedly, at least at that point of time, Ed's Nikons always focused faster than my Canons did.
Well, now I've been switching to Sony, which even focuses faster than the Nikons.
He's continued to spend money on new stuff, and me, I'm just trying to get my old stuff out of the house.
Well, speaking of cameras, my newest camera is the Sony A9 III that allows me for the first time in over 20 years for this type of a camera to flash sync for portraits outdoors in the sun to basically any flash sync speed I want. But you used to be able to do that with the old medium format cameras?
Yes, I had Mamiyas, both the RBs and the RZs. But I had a leaf shutter lens for each of them. And therefore, if I needed a 500th or even 1,000 on the big one, 1,000th of a second, I could set the lens for it and then the flash and all. Now, I'm a little jealous at the way Ed can set it for anything and do anything he wants with his global shutter.
Yeah, I was just showing him some pictures earlier, actually from yesterday and the day before we were shooting. I was out there blasting away at 2,000ths of a second, 2,500ths of a second. I've even shot at 10,000ths of a second, and I can just completely obliterate the background, knocking it down to whatever I want. So I myself am wanting to retire soon. And it's kind of a shame that finally this camera comes out that I've wanted for over 20 years to be able to do this. And maybe it's my last year or two finally getting a camera to be able to do this. So it's kind of funny. You got new flash equipment. I got a new camera. And,
Well, my Canon, The last thing I shot with was, and I have one left, but I've got my Mark. I've got a 5D Mark IV, and I had 3 of the 80Ds that I did my video on. Weddings were never the thing that I needed anything for 4K. So even though the 5D will do it, it's not worth anything to me on that part. If I was still doing commercial, it would probably make a very good camera.
Well, speaking of video, you also did a lot of video. That's how actually I met you.
In the
When
beginning.
when I first moved to the area, I was doing video production only, and I wanted to get into photography. And Craig was doing photography, and he was just getting into video. So we kind of helped each other out. I helped him with some video stuff, and he helped me with some photography stuff. So you've done a lot of wedding videos and promotional videos, and how did all that work out for you?
Um, Promotion, they wanted to do, they probably would have been happy if I'd had the 4K or anything else. There's is how much have you got? Give it to me, and I don't want to pay you anything. But with the 3 of the 80Ds, you can cover most any and every angle that you need at a wedding. You can have a front, you can have an overhead, you can have over a shoulder if you're on the altar area. If you're outdoors, you can be handheld, you can mount it. My thing is, I virtually never shot anything in video handheld. Everything was on a tripod to keep people from jumping up and down because I was the one jumping up and down. So I think they did real well. And one thing I really like, I like wireless audio. That's something that I always actually enjoyed it a lot.
And what editing platform did you use to edit your videos in?
My final equipment was Premiere Pro. I enjoyed that. It seemed like I caught on to it right away. I don't know why, because I had I had 2 or 3 other things prior to that, and I was always beating my head against the rock and probably calling Ed. But just the idea, the Premiere Pro, just I don't know, it just seemed maybe the user interface or something, but I took to that just right away.
Yeah, even before that, I had a video toaster system, if people remember that far back, and I
I
sold him
do.
my video toaster system. He remembers it because he bought mine. Okay, let's talk about marketing. Without marketing, you don't get jobs. So how do you get jobs? How'd you do your marketing? And how you switch? You started out doing commercial photography and
Right,
then moved into more of weddings and portraits, and then the high school seniors.
right.
So how did you change all your marketing from back then to recently before you retired? And
The marketing kind of followed in the beginning. If you do anything good for a commercial type of thing, you'll get the jobs because one will tell somebody else, and where'd you get this, and where'd the photos of this come from, that kind of stuff. But I just didn't. It didn't take with me. I just didn't care for the type of work or what I had to do. But people, that's another story. Yeah, I've been told I talk too much, but what I find is if you know what people want, you've got the job. And it really doesn't matter what the price is. When you do high school seniors, of course, you don't make anything on your very first few because you're still figuring out what to do and how to follow what the seniors want and their parents. Um, and seniors, if you get some of the girls, especially as far as being senior ambassadors, give them a card, bribe them, either give them something off, or I've done all of them. I mean, half price or free photos or buy one, get one or something. I mean, there's always a way to get the senior girls. With the guys, it's different. Mom calls you up and she doesn't care how good or bad it is. Mom wants to know, hey, Johnny's missed purposely. Johnny's missed every single makeup session. What can we do? How can I get a picture of him before this is all over? But when you work on your price list, you listen to what your seniors want, and it really will make a difference. Now, one thing that's important about it is everybody wants to give away things like wallet-sized photos. Well, the fact is, Give them an 8x10. They want the wallet size photos, and charge them. Don't be afraid of your prices. You got a lot of time in it, and it's the last time they're going to get senior photos before they're off to college and off to the military and all that kind of stuff. So it was a good business until it quit.
And what about getting into weddings? And you also did in-studio portraits, portraits on the beach. Was weddings? What was more lucrative, portraits or weddings? Probably the weddings, I would imagine, but it's more time and more work, right?
It's more time on weddings. And the way I got started was my ex-wife's second wedding. She hired me. I got 2 pictures that I thought was good. Didn't start with a whole book full of them. Got 2 pictures that I thought was good. And when she sent me her friend, she took a look at my 3-ring binder, which I had taken the 2 pictures, and I spread them out, one each on 2 different pages. She says, "Well, is this it?" I said, "No, I've got more coming." And after I shot her wedding, I had more.
You had those more coming. Okay.
Yeah, and one led to another to another. But
well, see, that's kind of how I started, because you let me tag along with you at some weddings because I had no wedding pictures, and you let me second shoot and said, told me, well,
use what you want.
You could use these to promote yourself, and I did, and that's how my whole wedding business started. Once again, by Craig's help here.
Yeah, but you have always had the creativity, so I have no squawk about having started you or you being there or anything.
Well, I came out of video where you had to edit a million things, so I was used to being in front of a computer for hours on end already. But then you did a lot of beach portraits as well. Which
I do a lot of beach did a lot of beach portraits. Yeah. Remember, I'm retired now. But when I closed my last studio, I decided that I would go and I didn't think I'd get many of them because while the studio was open, I did church weddings, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 weddings, especially if there was a wedding, if it was still photos as well as
you would
video.
give them wedding albums too, right?
And they'd get albums. Yeah. We'd set it up and multiples on a page, and they looked good, real good.
Yeah, I remember going into your studio and you had these awesome, gigantic gold framed pictures with brides and grooms, and I was always amazed with that. They looked fantastic.
It's what sold them. Yeah. Because in the studio, the bride's parents, but normally the mother, but the bride's parents would come in, and I could sell a mother of her daughter's portraits with no problem. I don't think I spoke with more than, in all 30 years, I don't think I spoke with very many dads. However, Dad had to pay the bill, but I don't think I spoke with many of the guys.
Yeah, that's true. The guys never come. It's generally the daughter,
right?
And the
and
mom.
That's word of mouth. If one bride gets good photos, she loves it. And if nowadays, if you have an internet presence, and they see your wedding photos, it's pre-sold pretty much. But again, if you go to the beach and do it, you almost never. Well, I'll bet no more than 50% of the time do you speak the first telephone or the first inquiry comes from a guy, not the bride. But after you convince them you're real and you'll show up and you'll be there and they find out you got what kind of a bill, they know you're real because you're not, it's not 29 cents to go shoot your wedding.
Right. We have a lot of grandparents that hire us for the family beach portraits because they're the ones paying, and they're actually renting like a, $5,000 a week beach house that's 8 rooms or something, and having the whole family there, kind of a reunion thing. One question I wanted to ask that I can hear my dog barking in the background is a lot of photographers these days. You see a lot of promotions and everybody says, "Oh man, you should have this 1.4 lens or be shooting at 1.2." And what I've found, not a single person ever calls us up when they're hiring us and says, "Can you make the background behind me really blurry?" It just never happens. And also, almost nobody ever asks me, what camera gear do you use? What
Right.
lenses do you use?
Right.
If anything, we do portraits on the beach. They want to see the beach and they want it to be in focus. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with all of that. But the thing I agree most with is they really don't care what you're shooting with. Now, a groom might ask you, and then of course you talk to him and you tell him something. He goes, "Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that either. Oh, I didn't know that." But once you've had a few minutes talking with them, it's all up to you. They don't care.
Yeah. They just want
Give me good
where
pictures.
they want their eyes open and they want to look good, especially the girls.
Yep.
If anything, the most questions we get is, "Can you make me look thinner?"
Well, I've said for a long, long time, once they get video as good as still photography, and especially in smaller sizes, you don't need a still camera anymore. And we have made it to that point. You don't need 18 billion gigapixels or anything to make a decent photo. You just need to have it and point it in the right direction and set up correctly.
Well, speaking of that, going back to the old digital cameras that we both actually were using years ago, we were both printing 16 by 20 prints, if not larger, from digital cameras. And nowadays, I see so many younger photographers talking in chat rooms saying, "I need to buy this 58 million pixel camera
right.
to be able to print a
Right.
11 by 14." And I'm thinking, are you out of your mind? We were doing that back with I don't know, honestly, 3 megapixel cameras, then 6 megapixels, and then 12 megapixels. And the difference in print quality between back then and now is not much difference. The main difference is the cameras are give you, cleaner images, but the print quality, you honestly can't tell a 16 by 20 from a 12
can't.
megapixel camera from a 50 megapixel camera when you put them side by side looking at the wall.
And there's another thing, especially if anybody new out there is watching this. The camera guild that I belonged to for multiple years in Pensacola, we had a guy who was always on the ball. He bought the newest, the bestest, the most expensive. He'd carry it around under his arm and show it off, and while we all salivated over it, and it was 2 megapixels.
2 megapixels.
It cost so much. The fact is, it was outdated by things that would do 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 megapixels before he ever even got it paid off. So that taught me a thing or two there too.
Yeah. I don't like showing off my equipment at all, or bragging about the new stuff I have.
Yeah, you do.
Oh wait. Oh, this is the new Sony A9 III, and this is the new Sigma 50 millimeter 1.2 lens. Yes, 1.2 lens, guys. And yes, I can blur the heck out of those backgrounds if I want to. But in reality, shooting a group of people, you can't shoot at 1.2 because half of them are going to be out of focus unless they're perfectly in line with each other. So anyways, that's my new camera.
Just couldn't stand it, could you?
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the next phase of where photography is going, and that is AI. Even Adobe has come out with new versions of Photoshop that is so AI
Right.
intensive that you can create this and create that. And I myself, I've created my own AI system. I've been playing around with it. So where do you think AI is going these days with photography, and how will affect photography?
I think by the time it's all over, it's going to take it over.
I think so too.
Now, it might not be that it's going to go out on the beach and shoot that picture.
Right.
But the fact is, as soon as you feed that to your computer, you've got so much that can be done with it, so many different ways you can do it, so much more easily that you can do it after you learn a little bit about it also, but everything comes with a learning curve. But when they're choosing from millions of images or all that kind of stuff, Ed has shown me part of his work, and the fact is, beats green screen all
Yeah,
the no pieces.
yeah, I did a lot of green screen, and I could say the AI. I can shoot a picture of a person on the beach, bring it into AI, and then make them look like they're standing in Paris or something, without no green screen,
Right.
and make them look younger, make them look older, whatever you want. And I'm just still learning it. It's getting better and better by the week. Also, for headshot photography, there's a couple websites you can go to now where you can upload a couple cell phone pictures of yourself, and then the AI learns who you are, and then it will create multiple headshots of
Hmm.
you with different type of lightings, different type of backgrounds for like under $50. And so you don't even have to hire a photographer already to do the headshots. And if you look at what's happening in commercial photography, you can take a product, just take a simple picture of that product, bring it into AI, and now you can have that product with fire on the mountain
Yeah.
behind it, or being anywhere. And then even models are being replaced by artificial AI created models that are now holding the product that you want. uh,
Perfect retouching.
yeah. And so whoever the digital AI artist is that learns how to do this the best is going to be replacing, tons of
People
photographers.
in the field.
Yeah. So I think maybe you retired at the right time before it gets too crazy.
I did. I don't have anything to learn. When you had asked me about it, yeah, I'd heard about it and seen it on TV and all that kind of stuff. But all I could think of is I'm retired.
Yeah, that's the way I'm looking at like next year. And even though I'm learning a lot of the AI stuff now, I'm thinking, well, if I retire in another year, why do I need to bother spending my time doing this? But I'm having fun with it, and I think it's pretty neat and it's interesting.
That's
So,
the idea behind it.
something to do.
And I'm looking for nothing to do.
Okay. Okay, now a few questions about like if you're a new photographer or a photographer just starting out and you want to go into business as a photographer making a full-time living. Craig made a full-time living for over 30 years. I've been doing this for over 20 years, making my full-time living at it. Uh, Craig, what would you suggest or not suggest to a young photographer just starting out?
Well, the very first thing is don't worry about what equipment you buy. Start with the best camera and lens that you can get to begin with, but learn how it works. Don't stand there trying to take somebody's picture and find that you're spending all your time talking to a box in your hand so you can go click. After that, once you get to speaking with people, that's when you can make a business out of it. But what I really say is after you get to that point, you better learn something about AI. It's not going to be any time at all. It's a very quick moving technology. It's not, and it's a very good technology. Yeah, it takes time learning. So does everything else. So does learning how to use that camera box. But AI is going to make a large difference in the imaging business, a large difference. So I recommend start if people are what you're really after or products or anything like that. Start and then by all means learn something to do with AI, how to write up prompts, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, AI is getting crazy. Uh, to me, if I was start telling somebody to start out, honestly, I would say look for a different business. Because
Paint houses,
yeah, I remember when I started on the beach here in this area. I'm in Gulf Shores, Alabama. I was like me and like two other guys I'd always run into all the time. Now there must be like 300 photographers. We're all going after the same jobs, the same people. So the saturation point in this business has gotten insane.
It just lowers the price. Everybody says, "Oh, I know if you want 500, I know somebody who do it for 400. If you
Mm.
want 400, I know somebody who do it for 100." That's not worthwhile. Now, here's another thing to think about. Just like green screen, and I just had this proved to me today by Ed. Uh, I really think if you get out and you shoot anything, whatever the job is, whatever kind of people, whatever you want to shoot, products, it doesn't matter. Uh, show more things. If you've got somebody standing there and they've got one background behind them, show them 12 different backgrounds.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not going to be able to stand it. They're going to buy something.
Yeah, that's what will I can't even say,
Differentiate
yeah, I
you.
can't say that word,
I'm different.
from the other people, right? If they don't learn AI and do these things, you'll be the only one that's offering that. You'll be the one that gets the job
Right.
and get paid more because you can do it.
Right. Don't give it away. Don't give it away. It's the coming item that's going to matter, and it's really just virtually here.
Now, speaking about giving it away, years ago, I did not give away photos with our sessions. We charged people basically a sitting fee, a sessions fee, and then they had to buy the pictures afterwards.
Right.
But over the years, with so many other photographers, including the pictures in, we finally, many years ago, switched to giving all the images that I edit, the edited images with each package. And honestly, it's less work.
It's far less work,
I edit the job.
especially the packaging.
I post them online. They can download the pictures and the job's done. I don't have to worry about editing more things. They can order prints online. And so were you giving people the pictures all too, or?
To begin with, everybody got pictures or books or both, that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But as time went by, then we fell for the idea of, well, I better give them a disc or something. And I was a little concerned in the beginning, so I turned everything green, and they'd call me up, and I always knew who tried to copy my work because my pictures are all green. But as time went by, they didn't know what they were doing, that kind of thing. But what we gave them changed until it was finally just digital downloads also. It's just easier.
Much easier.
When Walmart's giving out photo albums, even though they're a cheaper album and all that kind of stuff, the fact is it's kind of hard to go against a $25 or a $50 album with all the pictures in it and look, we'll do it for you. And they steal your pictures anyway. Even if it says proof all the way across the front of it. Cannot begin to tell you how many, most notably high school senior portraits have come in. Hey, can you copy this for me? And it says Craig Studio right across the front of it.
Don't even realize that you're the one who shot it.
Yeah, but just the idea. No, I changed with the times, and now it's going to be the AI, and that's what's going to make the prints.
Yeah, we started out doing family portraits. I think I was charging $225 for the session, and then we charged $500 for them to buy the full disc.
Right.
So we were making $725 off basically almost everything because I think 99% of the people all bought the disc. So over time, what we did is we actually lowered the price a little bit. So now we're in the $600 range, including all the pictures, and they just pay that up front. So I'm making a little bit less, but nowadays we've gotten more busier. So I mean, we could work as much as we want.
Yeah.
Now the sad part is the economy. I make about as much money as I did 15 years ago, but my money's not worth what it was 15 years ago.
That's the problem.
Yeah, so that's another thing with starting out photographers. You have to look at the fact that, I see photographers saying, oh, I did a wedding and I made $800. And I'm thinking,
No.
I wouldn't do a wedding for $800 even 20 years ago. We were doing them for $2,500 to $3,000. And when I see somebody say they're doing them for $800 or $1,200 and they think they're doing great, I'm thinking, that's terrible.
Well, add up all the time you have in it, which is what most people don't do because it's digital and it's automatic and it really ought to be free, right?
Yeah, right.
No, not at all. When you find out how much time you've got in there, and then you find out you've got equipment to pay for, you've got time, your time, you've got to also make some profit, you've got insurance, you've got occasionally things that don't go right, all that kind of stuff. You've probably paid for somebody's wedding. And I don't care how nice they were to you or anything. The fact is, when you're paying for their wedding, that gets old in a hurry.
Yeah.
So make sure you really check and see what your real costs are in it. That could be a whole program all by itself.
Yeah, if you're going to do this for a living, you need to make sure that you can do this for a living, and that means making enough money to make it be your living.
Right.
Okay, now we're just going to have an open chat talk, and we're just going to talk about anything, photography, life in general, anything. So now that you're retired, what are your plans?
How do you spell that? I don't have any plans. I have grandkids. They are my plan.
Right.
I travel a lot, or I try to. I'd like to do it even more, but I travel considerably. And actually, I take on most of my trips. I take a grandkids with me. Um, I have not picked up my Canon 5D more or less since I retired. It has
Wow.
been sitting in my bag while I've been selling everything else that I could. Um, and I'm not upset about that. But I will say I did pull out some images, and as I was going through the images, I thought every single time I saw anybody, oh, I remember this senior, this bride, this wedding, this
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and it was like I should do something.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
like you have a lifelong catalog of other people's lives.
yeah. Well, when I was invited to the schools to speak for the career day type of arrangements, the high school juniors, normally most of the schools would have a career day in their junior year, not their senior year, but they would ask me, what do you think your job is? I said, I'm a historian. And of course,
Yeah.
everybody go, huh? But what, how, why? I said, I record little small portions of people's lives.
Especially when you like record a family and through generations they've come back to you over the years
Oh, yeah.
to hire you, and you've done their wedding, and then you've done their kids and their grandkids, and it truly is that.
That's truly while I'm retiring. Uh, I mean, for years, I couldn't go most anywhere within 50 to 75 miles. I couldn't go to a park somewhere without people saying, "Well, you're Craig, right?" Yes.
Mm.
And after a while, I mean, it's nice, but after a while, you kind of hope they forget who you are, you know. And we've got a white beach they can all stand on, so.
So with photography, do you feel like photography was a good business for you and it was worthwhile?
It was an excellent business. I loved it. I really honestly think, and this is due to you, Ed, showing me all those pictures and everything. But I think I was in during the best part of it.
Yeah.
And unless people are starting out and learning the AI type of an arrangement, I think it's going to become more and more difficult
Yeah.
to make a
Yeah.
living in it if you don't know anything about AI.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think it's sad that we have the best cameras and lighting equipment out right now.
Right.
And the fact is, with AI, you can take a image that's only 512 pixels by 512 pixels and have AI change it around and blow it up to any size you want. So in reality, the better AI gets, the less bigger megapixel cameras you'll ever need.
Your telephone is becoming far more important. I've been on 3 vacations with grandkids, and although I did take my camera on the first one, and I didn't take any pictures on it. I took nothing but images on my telephone. The third one I went on, I took no pictures on my camera, and the second one I was going to take it to do engagement portraits of a granddaughter, and it rained when we managed to go to that particular waterfall. Not that we were in it or anything, but the weather itself rained. Couldn't even get the camera out to take pictures with. So
Yeah.
I've not used it for 3 different full trips. Whereas in the past, I could come back from out west with 2,500, 5,000 shots. It didn't matter. It was a heck of a thing editing all of it.
Right, right. Yeah, sometimes I shoot so much, I'm like, I wished I didn't shoot that much.
It's slow video. Click, 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 click.
Yeah, yeah, the editing time. I edit so much every night, my eyes hurt sometimes.
Yeah, I can't get over your hours sometimes.
Yeah, I we shoot a beach session. I come home, load the pictures in. My wife's cooking dinner. I'm starting to edit. She says dinner's done. I go eat. Then I go back to editing, getting the pictures uploaded. I'll end maybe between 12:30 to 1:30 in the morning. Go to bed, get back up the next day, start charging stuff up for that next day's
Right.
job because if I don't, I get behind.
Right.
You know, so
Well, you surprised me once early on, quite a while back now, when you asked me, how long does it take to get a senior out or a wedding or whatever? I said, oh, 6 weeks, or
not like what?
very likely longer, but 6 weeks. And you said just what you said there. If I don't get it out this week when I'm doing another new one today, then when am I going to get it out?
Yeah, 6 weeks later, you still got more jobs.
I learned it. I learned that from you, Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing. It came home with me. I fed it to the computer. I did the same thing. I ate. And although I don't think I put in the hours that you did, I mean, I haven't seen the sun come up on very many of those days where I know that you have.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Well, I turn the TV on too. I'll be editing. I have the TV going, so I'll be watching something, basically listening to it. I don't see it much because I'm looking at the screen.
Well, I turned my sound off, so I just I want to go to bed at somewhere while it's still dark out.
Yeah. Okay, well, hey Craig, I thank you very much for coming over for this interview, and I hope this is going to be a lot of good information for newer photographers starting out, and maybe some old photographers as well. And it was a fun conversation. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed this a lot. I think I was a little nervous about it, but the fact is, this has been good all the way around. And there is still money to be made in it. It's just changing to where the money is going to come from.
Right. So I'm going to wrap it up. And once again, thank you very much.
Great.
And everybody out there, please like and subscribe to my channel. And I'll have a lot more videos coming up.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.